This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Coming to you live from the 8-bit wonderland of your childhood, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom show with your host, Hassel Monster, and as you can tell, we got a special guest this week, Big Rob of Big Rob's House of Entertainment, and no Chinese food, none of the fucking Chinese food. He does not tolerate the shit at all. So we are here today, and we're going to talk about 8-bit gaming, 16-bit gaming, 32-bits, all them motherfucking bits. We're going the game systems of our childhood, precious memories, so to speak. And Monster, how's things going?
They're going good. We want to make sure we welcome Big Rob back to the show, which you did a fantastic job of doing. But this was actually his brainchild, his idea for an episode. So we said, hey, if we're going to discuss it, come on with us. And he was more than gracious too. And he's got his palatial estate back there in the background, as you can see, and he's hanging out in the back 40. So we appreciate him coming on to discuss our video game memories of our childhood. And I think we're going to get into that pretty quickly, so we don't have a ton of Geek Week updates. But before we get into that, let's do the little bit of stuff we do have, which was focused mostly on the WWE WrestleMania press conference and SmackDown, which I will admit I've seen bits and pieces of the press conference, none of SmackDown, honestly. But Hassel, as you were saying, you were explaining before we started, there's a little bit you can share with us, and then we can voice in with some opinions, and then we'll move straight into our focus topic from there.
Well, okay. You know, The Rock, he pretty well asserted himself into this evil Mr. McMahon role because they realized really quickly at this press conference, well, I'm sure even before, but I'm just saying, it was evident the fans were not having that shit. They booed. Every time he was mentioned before he come out, he was booed. He come out, and every time he spoke, he got booed. I mean, it was almost like close to Dom's heat. Not quite Dom heat, but it was close.
So let me add one thing there. Have you seen where they had somebody, and I can't remember who it was, that actually pulled the statistics off of Twitter, X, whatever it is now, that said that the hashtag We Want Cody was in close to 100,000 or so, and the hashtag We Want Rocky was like 12,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was waiting for Die Rocky Die. Honestly, it was getting pretty rough there, but they done a great job at the press conference to me. And you know, fucking Cody finally grabbed his balls and stepped up and said, "No, this is my choice. I'm doing this." And he got the shit smacked out of him. He smacked the taste out of that boy's mouth. But that was another thing.
McMahon slap.
Oh man, that was a good one too. But you know, then SmackDown opens and the game comes out. You got Nick Aldis in the ring. You got what's the cat from Adam Pearce. I don't know why he escaped me, but they were all three united front there. And Triple H very quickly said, this might make some people unhappy. He said, but at some point, people have to learn their role. And he said, I don't care what damn table you sit at or where you sit down. I run this show. We are a united front, and I still make the decisions here right now. And he did specify right now. But I thought he'd done a great job of kind of saying, woo, pump your brakes. I don't care if you're on the damn board at TKO or what, so forth and so on. And then he made a few decisions there. Obviously, the Elimination Chamber now be for the world title contender. Then you got SmackDown and Raw people contending in it. So they've done a pretty good job with that right there. Further set up the AJ and LA Knight feud because, Knight cost AJ. So obviously AJ will cost Knight in his match.
Yeah.
CM Punk has done a great job of making Drew McIntyre a great fucking heel again just by being hurt. Which Punk done a great job of stuff at the press conference if you watched it as far as kind of reestablishing himself as maybe not the predominant cancer he's been known to be lately. And so he had done a lot of damage control this past week.
Well, you got to wonder, was it really damage control, or were they planning something to swerve all along, and they were just trying to figure until they could figure out, is Seth really going to be able to compete? Is who's going to be able to? Because they got so many people that are getting injured, and it's not quite as bad as AEW's injury list, but it's their top people who are injured, who are like, okay, we wanted Punk, oh crap, he's hurt. We wanted Seth, oh he's hurt. What are we going to do? I think they were just trying to scramble and say, okay, let's buy some time and we'll keep doing stuff until we can figure out what we're actually going to be able to do.
Those are called audibles.
Yeah. But I will say, though, that, and maybe this is just my opinion, but if you watch the shows and you see the ones when you could tell the timeline when Triple H was truly in charge of stuff versus when Vince came back and was trying to insert himself again. And then when they handed it back to Triple H, you can tell the difference in who's running the show. And quite frankly, I don't think it really should matter who's on that board. They honestly should just leave that show to Triple H. He actually does a very good job with it.
Yeah, and I honestly think, I personally think The Rock, he doesn't need a hand in creative. I mean, he is a great character, at various points in his career. But I don't want to see him I don't want to see him back in a championship role. I don't want to see him. He could transition into a great evil board member.
He could.
Head of the table, so to speak.
I would prefer just cameos. Hey, I'm going to pop up and pop at this show, and I might, lay the smackdown on a couple of people and then leave. But that's kind of all I really want to see out of him is show up, do a little trash talk, and maybe drop a couple of people that are like mid-carders or whatever that he could easily defeat, and just walk away out. And I don't even mean in matches, just, like Grayson Waller. He could walk in there, throw Grayson Waller to the ground and be done with him and then leave.
They could bring back that one, the Zach Gallup, what was the one-legged kid, Zach. They could bring that one-legged man back and kick his ass, and I wouldn't care.
Are you sure they'd hired the right one? Because I guess Johnny's gone, but he hired the wrong one that one time.
Yeah, this is true. So what do you guys think about The Rock transitioning into this kind of joining the bloodline, so to speak, is how it really looks like?
I'll let Rob go first because I jumped in a minute ago, so he's the guest here. So, how do you feel, sir?
No, I think it's brilliant storytelling. I was on the We Want Cody train just as much as anybody. When the press conference or whatever, whenever they said that The Rock was going to take it and everybody flipped out, I was just as angry too. But I think this is whether it was planned this way to start with, or whether this is calling an audible and changing it, this looks like a setup for not only to hopefully finish Cody's story, but to start a new bloodline story and to keep this thing going. I think it's brilliant. I'm going to hope that they actually planned this out, but whether they did or they didn't, I'm all for it, and I'm anxious to see where it goes.
I will say this: if this was their path, now they knew that this was the path all along, and it was a swerve. That's one hell of that's storytelling 101, beautifully done. I think they reacted myself. I think they thought it was going to go one way, because I'm sure, The Rock, his ego, he still thinks he's 99, 2000 Rock. He still thinks he's that guy. And, he's always got such an amazing ovation when he comes back, and he does have a love and a passion for it, but I just think he overstepped overestimated his sense of worth in today's WWE, and did not realize just how fucking invested the fans are in wanting to see this fucking story done. Fix the damn story, let's do it.
That could very well be. I will say, though, that honestly, if you look at who's running the shows now, between Regal, who's helping out with NXT, Shawn Michaels, who's running NXT, and Triple H, these guys can tell good stories. I mean, honestly, you watch most of their stuff, and everybody says Triple H is not one of the greatest in the ring, and maybe he wasn't, but he does very good storylines and tells good stories with his stuff. I mean, whether you like him or not, I think he does a good job of that. And I think Shawn Michaels always did, no matter what he did, but it was just they had their issues with everybody else, but they tell good stories. So that I could see them coming up with something like this just to try and play off of it. But now I'm not really sure. It may have been a reaction. However, I will say this: if they decided to do this as a storyline, it's a very easy step from saying, okay, Rock's going to be the evil head of the company or whatever to take Mr. McMahon's place. But it's a really, really short step from there to saying, okay, Roman keeps saying he's head of the table, but Rock's like, I'm in charge of everything. So really, I'm the head of the table. And now these two feud after Roman and Cody are done because
I definitely said for the first time a babyface Roman that the fans are behind. And I can tell you this,
or does that turn Rock back babyface? Because if Roman still says he's head of the table and his heel,
brother, that conference right there, those fans when they thought it was still going to be Cody and Roman and Rock. Every time Roman talked, they popped like a motherfucker. When fucking Rock spoke, instant boos. I mean, I was like, this is fixing to be that turn you had at WrestleMania 18 with Hogan and Rock. It was quickly becoming that.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen the press conference, so I'll take your word for that.
It's worth going back and watching that final segment along. The rest of the conference was kind of
I've been meaning to. I just haven't had the opportunity yet. I was planning on doing some of that last night. Then we ended up having to go out to eat because the kid wanted to go with his mother out to eat and stuff. I was like, so.
Then they talked shit to Triple H afterwards. Told him he was lucky he was retired, and he just kind of looked. There was a no, you're lucky I'm retired. And I was like, oh shit. So I don't know. You've heard about his health issues. Is it truly as bad as they thought, or have they realized now maybe he can step back into the ring, or maybe he gets an advocate? Would you like to hear some glass shatter and an advocate in the form of Stone Cold come out here for The Rock one more time?
Well, that's an interesting point because at this point, McMahon waited to the last minute to tarnish all of his legacy, basically.
Ooh.
But think about how much of the stuff in the 90s was him and Austin. So did he take Austin down along with him just because now everybody's like, I'm not going to watch anything that had Vince in it, so nobody goes back and sees anything Stone Cold was in. So
I don't think that'll happen there. I think it's going to be there. They just won't mention. He shall not be mentioned. It's kind of like when you go on WWE Network, you can find Benoit matches, but you know what I'm saying. You have to search. They're not like popping up in the top ladder matches of all time or something like that.
That's the thing, though. Do you say? I mean, not the company, but as a fan. How many fans will say, I just won't have anything to do with anything that had McMahon in it? So then they lose the whole start. So you know that these folks are mostly retired. They're getting out of it. So it's passed down generation to generation. Like for me and my kid, when he's talking about something, I was like, hey, let's go back and watch this and we'll find it on YouTube and watch it or something. And then he gets into that character. But he wouldn't have heard anything about it in today's world.
Maybe Stone Cold can be the new advocate for women's rights because he kicked that old geriatric fucker's ass for 10 years there.
Could be.
Knowing what a creep he was. Maybe he knew what Vince really was, and that's why he was giving him the middle finger and pouring beer all over his ass for 5 years.
He's like Bobby Heenan and Hogan when Hogan joined the NWA. He said, I've been telling you for years. He's a horrible person.
I seen a quote from Bobby Heenan yesterday that I'd never seen, actually, and it said, the scariest thing about wrestling fans is they're allowed to breed and vote. And I was like, holy shit.
Peons.
Yeah, the little ham and eggers.
Oh, well, we talked about that a little bit. We said we would keep that brief because we did have a really fun focus topic, and I'm sure wrestling will come up again somewhere in this focus topic, but let's go straight into that, though. So, Big Rob, this was your idea to talk about video games, and I think you had a concept of I will let you share what your concept is, and we'll give you the first crack, and we'll go from there, and we'll just feed off of each other. How about that?
Oh, that's cool, man. I appreciate it. And before I get into that, I apologize. I just thought about something that's can kind of. It is a video game thing, but it's not a nostalgic video game thing. Have you guys seen the controversy or whatever about the new Stellar Blade game on PlayStation?
No,
nothing about it. I've seen another one though. We can hit on it real quick too before we go into the nostalgia stuff.
Right. So real quick, just because I want to bring this up, just because I love video games and everything. So Stellar Blade is coming out in April. It is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, which bums me out to no end because I'm a PC Xbox guy, but neither here nor there. It's an action adventure, third person shooter kind of game, but the heroine, the main character is this chick named Eve, and she is super gorgeous and just got like an absolutely 12 out of 10 body, right? And so all of these social justice warriors are angry because this chick's super hot. Now, this game is not a Western game. It's not American. It's from South Korea. And the guy that designed it, and I can't, my memory's terrible. I'm sorry. Too much TV when I was younger or whatever. So I don't remember the name of the development company or whatever. But anyway, basically the guy told everybody, he's like, yeah, I know she's above average. I want to play video games for the ideal. I don't want to see average.
What do they think sold Tomb Raider?
Do what?
What do they think sold Tomb Raider? Laura Croft.
Right. Well, you think about Tomb Raider. You think about back in the day when the first Tomb Raider hit, how big those pointy triangles were. As compared to the last one where she's almost looks like an anorexic boy. That's what's happened in the video games. They're taking away feminism, and they're taking away the feminist look. Anyway, so the other part of this is the developer, he told everybody, he said, oh yeah, we paid special attention when we were doing the modeling to her backside because that's what you're going to see most of the time. And I'll be honest, if you watch the trailer, it's some impressive backside. But is it
Rogue laying in front of Apocalypse impressive?
Yeah. Honestly, it's pretty close to that. The model who was what I read is the face for the character was an in-house design. It's not the model's face, but the body was a body scan from a Korean supermodel. And I can't say her name. It's Shin Jae-eun. I'm sure I'm butchering that terribly.
Feel free to send her link.
Oh, please. Yeah, I'll send it to you when we get done. This girl is worth Googling. She is gorgeous. And I'll be honest, the body scan, probably a 1-to-1 body scan. They didn't have to do a whole lot of enhancing because this girl is fine. But anyway, I just think it's hilarious that these people are getting mad because this main character, this protagonist of this game, is too hot. Essentially, I mean, that's what they're mad about, is the fact that she's beautiful.
And I've heard nothing about this game, and now I'm intrigued. So if you want to, I do own a PlayStation 5. So if you'd like to buy the game and come play it here, you're welcome to.
I'm this close to buying a PlayStation, but as close as you live, I'm just going to buy the game and come over to your house and we'll just play it there.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. We're kids again.
But I'll send you the links, or whatever. But if you get a chance to Google Stellar Blade or Stellar Blade controversy, it's and the only social media I do anymore is Twitter or X, whatever. And it is absolutely hilarious how they are just roasting these SWs over the coals because of this whole thing. So I apologize. That's an aside.
If he's South Korean, he probably gives zero fucks what a bunch of these liberal ass Americans think. Because we're in America, I don't care what these liberal ass Americans think. So
he does not care at all. So, yeah, Monster. Sorry.
No. You're good. Go ahead and finish up.
No, I was going to say I thought you said something that you had another game you was wanting to talk
about. Yeah. It's not quite the same controversy, but it's another controversial one because of the style of the game and what it reminds people of. But have you seen this game Power World?
On ripoff?
Yeah, exactly.
I've not paid that much attention to it, but I've heard the name, but that's about it.
So for Hassel's knowledge, and Rob, in case you haven't seen it, I know you said you've seen some of it, but it's like Pokemon. It's an open world game. You're running around as an adventurer and you do these things, but you also collect little sidekicks who are different, like animals that look a lot like Pokemon. And you basically, it's the same as Pokemon. You enslave these animals to go do your battle along with you. You know, what do you think Pokemon does? He puts them in a little ball and he tells them when to come out and fight.
Monster. He's a trainer. Come on.
Yeah, that's what they sell for farms too.
You just can never leave the confines of your little cage until you fight and come back.
Yeah. But and Rob was saying something funny, I'm sure, but I could not hear him because you drowned him out there.
They're almost like cute Conan, if you think about it that way. It's essentially what Conan was in the beginning. He was fed, housed, kind of like a Pokemon, and taught to battle.
again, like
the lamination
I said,
of the women.
the enslaved little creatures.
I said a Pokemon trainer is a trainer in the same way that Michael Vick was a dog trainer.
Oh,
He went there.
oh.
But this game, Power World, the
He's a dog lover
Pokemon
now.
fans are so adamant about that it's a ripoff of Pokemon, and yes, some of the designs are, but they're saying it goes against Pokemon because they're actually the little creatures can die and stuff, and you could take and they don't just go back in their little ball and reheal and stuff. They actually can die, and the characters can die. It's like, so they're like, this is horrible. This is just defacing and defaming Pokemon. So they have actually sent death threats. There are actually a lot, like in the thousands of death threats being sent to the creators of Power World, and they're just sitting there laughing, and Nintendo's sitting there going, we own Pokemon stuff for the most part, but we don't know what you guys are so upset about. And they're like, well, they're stealing from our Pokemon and they're defaming our game. And it's like, when's the last time you made a new and inventive Pokemon game, really?
If Nintendo's not pissed, I promise you no one should be pissed, because they're the proprietors of this and the ones that's really
I haven't seen
standing to be
I
defaced.
say they aren't, but I haven't. Maybe I just haven't seen where they've said anything, but they have not. But the creators of Power World are actually posting death threats that they've been getting from the companies. Like, it's like, this is, and they're making fun of it. They're like, this is funny to us, but like these people are sending them, like, really. And I get it. Pokemon's a 20-plus-year-old system and all, or game, and it's got its diehard fans and stuff, just like we are with our comics and our shows and movies and everything. But I still ain't sending nobody a death threat for ripping off Star Wars.
I could never really get, even in its infancy in the beginning, it didn't ever nothing about that appealed to me at all.
Love the original, the first like 3 or 4 generations. I mean, it was an old school RPG. I love those, but I got out of them. But I've never loved it. I love Star Wars, and as terrible as Rian Johnson did his movie, I didn't ever think that sending a death threat was an okay thing. Come on, y'all. You don't consume it. That's it.
It would be
hit the off button. That's more powerful than anything.
It would be akin to sending a death threat to Zack Snyder for that Rebel Moon movie he did on Netflix, which is just a Star Wars ripoff.
Oof.
Oh. But now that we've hit on some modern stuff, Big Rob, take us into what we actually want to talk about, and you share your concept of what this is about, and we will go from there, sir.
So, okay, appreciate it, and I didn't say it earlier, but thanks you guys for having me on again. I always enjoy hanging out with you guys. I was driving the other day. The concept for this, I was driving and I was thinking something, a commercial or something come on reminded me of an old school video game, and I just got to thinking about how much I used to love it. I mean, I still like them, but I never play anymore because I don't have time. I'm an adult, sort of.
Sucks, don't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, but when we were kids, man, video games were just like we hit the video game boom when we were kids, and I just really loved it. And I thought about, and I was actually going to do this as my own one of my own episodes, was just me talking about my love, my passion, my history of video games personally. And I thought how much better it would be to talk with you guys to share our own experiences, because we're all the same age. We all grew up with video games, but I guarantee our experiences ain't the same. But they're no less awesome. And so, I mean, that was kind of my thing, and I just kind of like, for instance, my first memory, and again, my memory's terrible. My first memory of video gaming is playing the NES over at my cousin's house. And she had the really cool NES that had the Rob robot. I never had that, but I remember playing Mario, the original Mario with the square controller and the 2 buttons, and trying to run and jump. And I swear to God, I would jerk in the controller trying to make him jump.
I still do this.
Yeah. And my aunt threatened to tape my hands to the floor so that I would quit jerking the controller around, because I guess it just hurt her. And I just got to thinking, how funny it was that, 6 generations later, and we're using a Wii remote and a nunchuck, and you have to do that to get it to work.
But how much harder was it when that was actually part of it? Because you've conditioned yourself for years to to do all this shit that we've done that you shouldn't have had to do. Then when it was part of the game, it was like it almost like, whoa, I'm not going where I'm supposed to because I'm fucking doing what I'm used to doing.
Nintendo knew what we were doing the whole time. But no, I just, and the NES was not my first console. Well, it's probably my personal first console. I have older consoles than that now, but that was just my first memory. I was a Nintendo guy. I didn't, and I know today it's PlayStation versus Xbox, but back in the day it was Nintendo versus Sega.
That was the thing.
Until I was like 19, I was a Nintendo guy. I was just, I just wanted to talk about stuff like that. What was your guys? I mean, early memories for you guys.
Monster, I'll let you go first.
We had, I remember having Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and then Sega Genesis. But I remember on the Nintendo, like earliest memories is probably just playing Mario and Duck Hunt. And I will tell you that everybody has the same ones, most from our generation of Mario and stuff. And then Zelda was a big one at my house, and more so because I would play but couldn't really get past a certain point. But my dad would play, and he would go through all kind of stuff on it. He would beat the game, and I remember watching him play. But the most, I guess, the funniest memory I had was on Duck Hunt when you would miss a duck and that stupid dog would laugh at you. I would just start popping caps at that dog. It was just it's like I wish I could just kill you.
I just learned you could control the dog with the second player.
I thought it was the ducks you controlled with the second player.
Yeah, maybe it's the dog. Man, I thought it was a dog. Somebody said you could control the dog or some shit.
I think it's the ducks. What? You can make the ducks try to avoid being shot.
Oh, okay. I didn't know this.
Yeah, I remember playing that one. I remember that, but my favorite game back then, honestly, Paperboy. Trying to ride and deliver the newspaper, and you could break windows, and you could throw it in the mailbox, you could throw it on the doorstep. I just remember riding along and just I'd get to some houses and I would do it properly, and then every now and then you get to one and the little person would come out and yell at you or whatever, so I'd start destroying their windows.
They made a game for doing chores, and we bought it and enjoyed it.
It's worse.
Don't ask us to do chores.
It's worse now though, because they have so many VR games that are like showing you how to case pick. Like if you're in a warehouse, you pick this case, you put it on the conveyor, and you do forklift driving and stuff. But it's like it's virtual reality, so you're doing it like you're actually doing the job. And there's kids who play that all day long. Like,
what is wrong with them?
Just go to work.
Someone who's drove a forklift for 25 years, don't ever.
I mean, case pick is worse. I mean, you got to pick up case out of this side. Did you use proper technique to move and stuff? And it actually monitors your movement and tells you, oh, you hurt your back doing this. I'm like, take your ass to the warehouse. You can get this in real life. You don't need to spend money on it. They'll pay you to do this.
Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, what about you? How's your early memories?
Well, my earliest memories, because I was probably actually like 10 before I had my own Nintendo. Because we were poor, but I do remember like being about, I don't know, 7 or 8, and my uncle had a Nintendo. And at the time he still lived with my grandmother, so when I would go to my grandmother's, I'd always be waiting on him to go out on a date or something, so I could sneak in his room and play his Nintendo, and I'd play like Zelda and Mario and shit like that. And then the neighbor that lived next door said the apartment complex I was at, she had a Nintendo as well, so I'd go over there and play with them. So, these are some of the earliest memories I had. With that and some Atari stuff. Dad actually had an Atari at Grandma's. Like when they all of a sudden realized Nintendos were big. Dad's like, oh, we got something better than Nintendo. We have Atari. It was not better. It was not better than a Nintendo. However, I did enjoy playing Pac-Man on it because they had the actual, joypad. So those were some of my earliest ones. And then when I was 10, Mom finally actually broke down and bought me a Nintendo. And while I had it on a black and white television, you couldn't tell me shit. I was pimping. And and it's crazy the games that you think of that were like not your I guess your mainstream games that you just like look back fondly, like, holy shit, that was actually really fun. Like I sent you guys a picture of one, Wood Water Rage. I seen a random picture for that game the other day on Facebook, I believe it was, and I sent it to my cousin Chris because we used to play this game at Grandma's. It was like you never got very far into the game. You was like you could either be the monkey on the surfboard, or the little skater guy doing the little skate shit. And for some reason, I love that shit. It was cool. It was really cool. That and Double Dragon were like some of my favorites.
So let's take a minute and do some of that though. We can talk about some more specific consoles and stuff, but I guess maybe let's do that on specific consoles like Nintendo, original Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I had the GameCube. And I think after that, the next Nintendo I had was probably the what is the little handheld one now? Whatever it's called. I can't think
Switch.
Of it. Yeah, because I hardly ever use it. Mostly my son uses it. But if we look back at those Nintendo systems, what were some of the favorite games that you had on those? And they could have been on other platforms too, but let's just start there with Nintendo ones. What's some of the favorite games that you had on there that you played?
Good.
Not everybody at once.
Everyone's being polite this morning. This is what happens when we do them early morning. Everybody's too polite.
Yeah, let's go with Big Rob.
Original Nintendo, man. One of my favorites was the original Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Quest as it was called in Japan. It was an old school RPG. It was one of those that if you subscribe to a year of Nintendo Power, you got a free game. I mean, that's a freaking deal. Can you imagine subscribing to a magazine and getting a free game? But I guess I got it for Christmas, and like it was like the game and like maps and books. I mean, it was like a whole. I wish I still had all that stuff. And it was actually, as far as I can remember, the only video game my dad ever played, because he would get off work at Hardee's at like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and he would come in and he would boot up the Nintendo and play it. And so then when I would get off from school the next afternoon, I'm like, I don't remember being level 35. But, so I remember that game, and I absolutely loved it. But that's probably my favorite NES game for me.
What about any other NES systems?
Well, and I will say I've had basically every game and every system Nintendo has put out, but the exception of like the Game Boy Micro. I never got one of those, but I would say probably the Super Mario World on Super Nintendo was just that game. I still play that game. That game was outstanding to me.
So what's some of your favorite Nintendo games that you played? And again, they don't have to be Nintendo brand, but that you played on Nintendo consoles, I guess.
Nintendo itself, I played a shit ton of Friday the 13th. It was the one horror game that actually was fun to play, even though you never fucking hardly ever beat Jason. Every now and then you'd escape the cabin, but as far as in the game, shit wasn't happening. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was a must. That was like my favorite, honestly. I did get a copy of Tetris. I was a Tetris guy, and which I was introduced to it obviously on Game Boy, like most people. But it was one I sought out after later and wanted on the console. Double Dragon 2 was a regular Nintendo go-to for mainstay. Obviously, the Castlevania series itself. Wrestling nerds, I played all the wrestling games. Then, when you transitioned into Super Nintendo, probably one of my favorite games of all time on Super Nintendo was Donkey Kong Country. Like, I loved this game. This was a game that, me, my cousin, and my stepmom would actually stay up and play. And we would play this game to fucking 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And Dad would get pissed because he could hear a mice fart. And, we would be in there fucking hooping and hollering, and he'd go to tell us to shut the fuck up, basically. My stepmom, we're playing the game. So then he'd shut up and was like, yes, the win. And then, obviously, NBA Jam on, was a go-to on Super Nintendo. Probably my favorite on 64, obviously, NWO, WCW Revenge. That was like the fucking premier wrestling game for years. It was legit. I like Mario Kart. I like Mario Kart much better than I did Super Mario World on 64. 64 was a weird. It was.
Yeah, I forgot about it earlier, but I had it too.
It's a very love-hate console. Like certain games were fucking amazing. Like I didn't really care for Mario World on it. I hated the Castlevanias they had on it. It was fucking awful. But then would have things like the wrestling game. Star Wars was pretty fun on there because you could actually, that was one of the few things the joystick did work well with when you were trying to wrap the legs up on the AT-ATs.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun. Other than wrestling games and GoldenEye, obviously.
GoldenEye was fantastic.
That was my main things on 64, and then Switch. Not Switch. GameCube was probably, I will say, one of their more innovative systems to me. It was like they finally transitioned into that because for the longest time there was a huge gap between PlayStation and Nintendo. Huge gap, and PlayStation to everybody. Honestly, they leveled the field with GameCube. It seemed like. It wasn't quite PlayStation because they came out around PlayStation 2 time, I believe. It was, graphics wasn't quite, but they were close. And the WWE games they had on GameCube, they were pretty damn fun. The Zeldas they had on there, Zelda was one on 64 I played the most, actually. Was it Oracle of Time? Is that the one that was, yeah. I remember getting off work. I would get off at 3 a.m. because I worked like a 5 to 3 shift at the time. The kids were already in bed by the time I came home, obviously, and my wife would be asleep. So I would come home, shower, and I would play this till fucking 7 a.m., crash out, sleep to lunch, get up, play it some more, go to work. Yeah, that was kind of my rhythm for a while there. I hated the Wii. It was a shit system. I still hate the fucking Wii. I hated the Ultra Wii. I quit buying after that. And then I pick the Switch back up, and Switch is a great console.
I would say for me on the original Nintendo, it was I had several games I enjoyed, but Super Mario and Duck Hunt, obviously, Zelda, Paperboy was one on there. I remember playing Double Dragon 2 and Contra 3 on there a lot. Those were both pretty fun.
Man, how did I forget Contra? Wow.
I only had one Castlevania game on there, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't play it very often. I had was it on that or Super Nintendo? One of them that had a Mega Man game that I liked a lot.
Mega Man was the shit.
Yeah. Super Nintendo, I really don't remember that much on Super Nintendo besides Super Mario. I know we had other games, but that one just didn't stand out to me as much. Now, 64, GoldenEye, fantastic game. NBA Jam, Mario Tennis was fun because get the little ghost and you serve one, and he does that little spin and serve that nobody can return. Just ace people several times. What else did I have on there? I said NBA Jam, GoldenEye, WCW, NWO Revenge, and those were all ones. I had other games on there too, but I played those consistently. GameCube was one of those that had good game. Oh, what was that, Rob?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You can ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was it 64 that we used to play? We used to come to your house and play Blitz on?
Yeah. Blitz was a good one. I'm glad you said that because I forgot it.
Maria to come down the hall and stick her head in. You knew it sounded quiet down a little bit then. Oh shit, we're getting loud.
GameCube, I don't remember too many games. I had some GameCube games, but it was a step up for them. But again, I don't remember enjoying a lot of them that much where I was into them that often.
Mitten still has a GameCube.
I still had a console somewhere, but it doesn't work. It's just in a box somewhere. I've never gotten rid of it. And then I will say I forgot about Game Boy too, but I had a couple of games on Game Boy. What was it? And on NES, you mentioned Mike Tyson's Punch Out. I had it, but on Game Boy, it was there was an NBA All Stars game, and there was a free throw game inside that All Stars game. I loved playing that. Just sit there and shoot the free throws because the basket moved, and you had to try and ring it.
Dude, you remember Arch Rivals on Nintendo? That was one I used to love because it was like the precursor to Blitz because you could punch motherfuckers.
I don't remember. I remember that game, but I don't remember playing it that much.
And Slugfest, that was the one on GameCube we used to play the shit out of at my house. That was because it was like one of the few baseball games. It was because you could actually throw it and tag their ass out.
I remember that game. I don't remember playing it that much, but I remember that game. And then there was a couple others I had on Game Boy. Tetris, obviously, everybody played Tetris on Game Boy, and there was a Spider-Man one on Game Boy, and you could and there were certain levels where you you couldn't jump from like ledge to ledge, and you had to swing on this web line across them. And I was like, oh, that I actually like because it was an early one.
I'll be honest, I don't feel like Nintendo on any platform ever really got a Spider-Man right. Like everyone, Separation is or Maximum Carnage, I'm sorry, was probably as close to a fun Spider-Man game as they ever got.
Yeah, what was the? No, that might have been Sega that I had an X-Men game on. There's one that was
Sega.
Apocalypse. Yeah,
that was actually going to be my next question. Like, it's obvious. I apologize. It's obvious we were all primarily Nintendo, but we all had Nintendos
for a time. I mean, I got out of Nintendo and Super Nintendo. I came back in '64, but I got out of it because we bought a Sega Genesis too, and I played more stuff on the Genesis than I did the Super Nintendo. That's why.
So, what was the games that you preferred better on Sega versus Nintendo?
I don't know if I preferred them better, but we had them there, and I had the first Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis.
The blood was there.
Yeah, blood. Well, you had to put in the code, but once you did, you had it.
But at least you had the option.
Yeah. That X-Men Apocalypse game was fun because you could play with different characters on different levels. It wasn't the same as the arcade game. The arcade game is still my favorite X-Men game, but that was actually a good one on there with the Apocalypse run. I think the Star Wars games you mentioned, I think I had them actually on.
That were Super Nintendo, I believe.
Well, you had some on Super Nintendo, but I had some on Sega that were the same. And then there was the one you talked about on 64. I had on 64 as well, where you could wrap around the legs.
Yeah.
But the ones I had before that were all on Sega.
Well, that Rogue Squadron, maybe.
Yeah. I still got that.
Now I'm trying to think if there was any others, but the main one was Mortal Kombat, and then the secondary was probably X-Men. But I had some other games on there that I didn't really play as often, but I just remember playing the Sega more often than I did the Super Nintendo, which is probably why I don't remember as many of those games.
Why do you think Sonic never transitioned like Mario did? Not to say that Sonic wasn't major or wasn't he just wasn't quite the household name Mario has been through the years.
Is it Sonic that didn't, or just the fact that Sega didn't go as big as Nintendo?
Awesome.
I think it's two things: speed to market, because Mario was there years before Sonic was, and second was probably the fact that Sega got a little big, but I don't think they ever reached the same heights that Nintendo did. They might have in that brief period, maybe that they.
I was going to say maybe
Super Nintendo
from probably
or something,
about 93 to 97, dude. They were kicking Nintendo's ass there.
Well, and that may have been just because Nintendo wasn't upgrading the console again. They took a long after they hit Super Nintendo. It felt like it was a long time before they did something different. And maybe I'm just remembering it differently because of years ago, but it felt like a long time before you got like the 64 or something.
Yeah, well, it was. I mean, it was what, probably 98, 97, 98, maybe. No, it had been 97, I think. 64.
No idea. I'd have to look it up. Well, we could continue talking while I look at it.
I'm almost positive it may have been late 96, but 96, 97, somewhere in there, I believe 64 come out. Because I was making the transition into PlayStation by this point, because I was even though I had the 64 and enjoyed it, I was a PlayStation guy from like day one. When PlayStation dropped, that was the coolest fucking system to me. And it was like, holy shit, this is next level.
It was September of 96 when it came to North America.
Okay.
It hit in June of that year in Japan, and then not until March of 97 in Europe and Australia. So, yeah, that's about right. So that time period, maybe that's why Sega because it felt like it was something different, new. Whereas
and maybe I'm thinking it's not 97 because I remember getting one for Christmas. My grandmother got me one for Christmas. That was it was a big deal. So I guess it would have been entering into 97 maybe, but.
That's what I say. I think it was just the speed to marketing in that time period. Maybe everything just felt different. But is there anything on Sega that you guys had specifically that was, hey, this was my game on Sega, or that was more fun on there?
The X-Men game that you were just talking about, absolutely. I prefer Jam on Sega over NES. I'm not sure why, I just did. Maybe it's the controller. I actually love the old school Sega controller. It's something about it. It's very. I get the curvature, maybe. I'm not sure, but Jam was one I preferred on there. Mortal Kombat, obviously, and I love Street Fighter too.
I forgot about Street Fighter, but yeah, I had it on Sega as well. I will say that was a good one. I never had Jam on either Super Nintendo or Sega. I actually got it on the 64, but that's when you had the joystick and you can run back and forth a little bit easier.
I still have it on Sega.
Ah, that's cool.
Actually, I think it's your Sega I have here because somehow or another.
It might be because I don't think we ever got rid of it. I think it just ended up moving around.
It passed around because, like, somehow or another, I think it gave it to Mittens. And then when we had the house on Main Street and we turned the outside barn into like a man cave type deal.
Yeah.
You know, we all kind of put shit in there at one point. That's where we played HeroClix, done our customizing the figures, play games and shit like that. And I think it ended up coming from Josh's to there then. It never left.
It may be. I know I had I know he had a GameCube, and I think you said he still had it, and I had one, but mine is around in a box somewhere because mine won't come on anymore. I tried it 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe 5. I tried it just to see if it would work.
The boy child got mine, let's just say it, and it didn't survive long.
Was there anything, Rob, that you had on Sega?
I didn't get a Sega until I was like an older teenager, but was Earthworm Jim, was that a Sega?
It was.
I liked it, and I liked Vector Man pretty good. And I want to say I only played it on Sega, but Booger Man was such a great game.
You know, I'm almost ashamed that no one has brought up Battletoads. Not one of us.
You know, I love that game, but I just don't remember it. I just remember playing it and remember liking it, but I don't remember the whole. What happened within it?
She was the evil queen. What about Comic Zone on the Sega? I never remember playing it, but it sounded like such a great game because I was a huge comic book nerd. I don't think I ever played it though.
I don't guess I know that one.
You know what? I know what game he's talking about, and the only reason I know what game he's talking about is because a few weeks back I turned on the Raspberry Pi, I bought it years ago, and then our buddy Waylon, he actually hooked mine up and made it the way it should be. And but I spent more time going through just looking at games, honestly. And I stumbled upon that game. I was like, oh shit, what is this? And I played about 20 minutes of it. It was actually pretty damn fun.
Like the game, the protagonist, you're like a comic book artist, and you get thrown into a comic book world, and you have to use your art skills to progress or something like that. But it looks like a moving comic book as best.
It's got panels. Yeah. It's like panels, and you kind of side scroll, but you transition through the panels.
Are you sure you weren't sleeping and dreaming that you were in Big Bad Beetleborgs or something?
No, this was a legit thing. I remembered it, but I didn't, because I was a Nintendo kid. I didn't have it, and I just thought, man, that would be a really great game. But then when I actually finally did get a Sega, I don't remember if I ever bought it or not. One of those things you may have forgotten about, I guess.
Yeah, well, as we sit here and talk, I remember more and more games because I forgot one earlier that I don't remember. I think this was a Super Nintendo, but I can't remember. The Turtles in Time.
That one was fun.
That's what Ninja Turtles should have been.
Yeah.
You would hope so anyway.
And as much as I love the old school music off the first one, how fucking brutal was that game? Everybody heard that. Because your ass was fucking dying. I don't give a fuck who you are.
Let's jump ahead though. So we've talked about Sega and Nintendo a little bit. So let's get into the Xbox and PlayStation era, and I know Nintendo still stuck around for that too with some others, but and that those were kind of the big ones and have been for the last few years. Even though Nintendo's got their Switch, which was, if you want a handheld game, that's the big one out there to have. But most people will usually take the full console type deal with it. So what about those two? Anything specific or memories or games from those?
I only had an Xbox for Xbox One, the first Xbox. for a brief
Yes.
period in time, because I remember I got it as a Valentine's gift. And the whole reason I wanted that console was because WWF Raw was an exclusive to it. And I was like, I was like, holy shit. And one of the things I liked about it was you could download music onto the Xbox from CDs, and then you could in the Creative Player, you could import that music over. So you could have whatever theme music you wanted for whoever. So if you were, making WCW wrestlers, you could have their authentic theme. I always created myself at the time as a member of the Hart family. So I'd always have Bret Hart's theme and some shit like this. And I remember actually loving that game. It was really fun. And then obviously at 120 days, exactly, this fucker just shits out one day. The game's stuck inside of it. Well, we got to carry it back to Walmart because I had the receipt. But it's past the 90 days. Well, we got to raise a hell. They were actually going to make the swap, and that dumb bitch I was married to at the time, she makes the comment, well, there's a game stuck in it. And I look at her. Oh, there's a game that you got to send it back to the manufacturer. So, yeah, that was my brief experience with the original Xbox. I did love the 360. There was a lot of really fun games on that. For a time, I was probably more in the 360 than I was PlayStation 2, even being a PlayStation person. But that was a shit ton of really great games. That was probably one of the best Xbox consoles I had was the 360. I know I did buy the Xbox that was after that.
That would
What was
be
that,
the
Xbox
one.
One? Yeah, I did buy
their
that.
numbering system is so weird. They went
Yeah.
Xbox 360, One, and X. Decide on a naming structure and follow it.
Yeah, the guys that worked for me wound up prospering off those systems there, because like the 360, I bought it and I probably had fucking at least 100 games for it at one point. And boy, when I bought PlayStation 3, I believe it was it PlayStation 3 or 4? One. I sold it off to a dude like $200. Because I did have the Red Ring of Death at one point. They fixed it. I will give Xbox credit. They fixed it.
I had that on my
their own
360
dime.
and they fixed it as well. That was actually the first Xbox I bought.
Yeah. So it was refurbished. And then I bought the Xbox One, and then I was like, it's really nothing that I just have to play on Xbox. I think the only thing I had on it that I really kind of was playing was like the Ninja Turtle game that came out that was, that we had Transformers, what was it, Devastation? Was where it was all cell shaded.
Yeah.
And I love that game on PlayStation 4. It was a Turtles game that was the same way, and I think it was only on Xbox, and I bought it. And I enjoyed it, but it was kind of fun, but I wound up just selling the system.
Rob, any memories for you for Xbox or?
I remember being really excited when the original Xbox was announced, but I think I was doing a lot of PC gaming then, so I didn't buy it. When it first came out, I have owned one, and I still own one now. But I bought mine years later. And I'm trying to think, like you said, the more we talk, the more I remember. I remember there was a couple of Evil Dead games for the original Xbox. Those were a lot of fun. But I really don't remember. I remember one of the Soul Calibur games that you bought it on Xbox. You got Spawn as a character. Bought it on, that was the next one, was the Vader, Yoda, and the Star Killer. Mm-hmm. One before that, there was, if you bought it on Xbox, you got Spawn. If you bought it on Nintendo, you got Link. And if you bought it on PlayStation, you got one of the dudes from Tekken. And I actually had it on all three systems just so I could have all the different characters.
Yeah, I didn't even play that game, but I bought it just to play with those characters.
Yeah. That was me, and I'd love to find it, because I'm sure I still got them, because I sell very little of my old stuff just because I like the old stuff. But Xbox 360, I did get one of those pretty early, and I read Ring of Death like everybody else. But I stuck with mine. I got the Xbox 360 Slim. I traded in my Xbox and a whole bunch of stuff. and I actually bought the Star Wars edition, the one that looks like R2D2 and the controller looks like as gold, like C3PO. I got one of those, and then I actually found just one real cheap on like Facebook or Craigslist that they said it was overheating, and they sold it to me for like $20. I bought a fan, a light up fan off of eBay, just one of those things just to see if I can make it work again. And then once I bought it, I got it home, bought the new fan, got everything up and running, and opened it up, and there was a copy of Red Dead Redemption inside the system already. So I'm like, that was a really well spent.
That was a good game on Xbox.
It was.
That was one I had on my list, but since you already brought it up, I'll go ahead and we actually played that at Hassel's house too, and that's why I'm surprised you didn't bring that one up.
Yeah, it was actually a fun one. I spent more time out of town because I was always getting banned from town pretty quick.
I remember I played Lost Planet because Mom was looking for a game for me, and Hassel recommended that one, so she bought that for my birthday or something, and that was a fun game. I really enjoyed it. That
was the one that was like Starship Troopers, right? That was pretty fun.
It was like an ice planet, like it was hot and Starship Troopers. It was a lot of fun. But then, and I have an Xbox One S. I don't even remember why I bought that one. I've got like 24 games for it that are literally probably still sealed in plastic because the only thing I use it for is a DVD player.
He's honest, at least. My Jedi Survivor is the same way right now. It's literally still in plastic.
I have several that are. But I would say on Xbox for me, and going back to, I never had the first Xbox. I did have 360. And I got to bring up a game that I cannot believe that Hassel completely overlooked. That was actually one that we all went to his house regularly and played it because you could play 4 players on it. Ultimate Alliance, the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Oh, fuck, yes.
I thought you was going with X-Men Legends, but yeah, Ultimate Alliance, yeah.
We did play the hell out of Ultimate Alliance, so that was great because that was one of that and Gauntlet. Both of those were 4-player games.
Those were ones that you could play together as a team, and it was like, all right. Because let's be honest, when we would play wrestling and stuff, one of us inevitably would get just destroyed and quit playing and get mad, and one of us would get mad because every time we played,
Mittens was that guy that he didn't want to win, he just didn't fucking want you to win.
But let's be honest now, you used to get mad at me because you're like, I play this game all the time. And every time I grappled you reverse because I had better timing than you did. As soon as you grabbed me,
you have the Dave timing without a doubt.
But those were always fun on there, and I enjoyed them. But I'm one of those people that I will get a wrestling game and I will play it for the next 4 or 5 years because they make a new one every year. I can't afford to buy one every year. I'm gonna find one that I enjoy and I'm gonna stick with it. And then the next one that I think looks that good, I'll move over to it and I'll get rid of the old one. But
well, I buy that every year, and I just paid for the 40 years of WrestleMania, and you get a free copy of 2K23. So if you don't have 2K23, let me know, and I can send you my physical copy. You're welcome
I
to
think
it.
I bought the last one I bought was 20. I gotta look and see. I don't know if it was 22 or 23. I don't remember which one I bought. I think it was 22. But
if you don't have 23 and you're not buying 24. I will mail you my physical copy, and you're welcome to it.
So thinking back, well, I appreciate that, but thinking back on some of the other Xbox games that I enjoyed, and I went through a time period where I stuck with the 360 for a longer time period than I should have because the one was out and stuff, and then eventually when the second 360 started having problems, I traded out to the one. But I don't remember which platform I played it on, but the Batman Arkham games.
Oh yeah,
those were fun.
Arkham City and Arkham Asylum were good.
I was PlayStation for those.
Yeah, those were fun. I just didn't care as much for the third one, but those were fun. But those were kind of my big ones. Those and I had a baseball game that was designed to be like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, but it was the bigs. So you could hit home runs and you could hit people with the ball and stuff, and you could. When you would hit the home runs, you could get saved up and you could hit like 3 or 4 in a row. You could trade people on your team. So I had a team that every batter could hit it out of the park with a home run. Sometimes I'd just bunt and load up the bases and then
You
I
know,
remember
a
playing that
360 game that we didn't bring up, and I am ashamed of because this is the one game I remember we had to fucking retire a controller because we wore it the fuck out. Guitar Hero.
Oh, yeah.
I hated those games. I just did not enjoy those at all.
I loved it. Like me, I know me, Rob, and Mittens loved them, and Jesse would come over and always try to play, and would get so upset if somebody like recorded him. Do you remember that? Like he got like so upset that day
I
because
remember
like
being there
somebody
while
was
y'all played.
secretly recording. He's like, I work for the DOT. You can't post that. Like, bitch, you probably filed paperwork. You don't do shit.
I remember coming over and watching you guys play. That was one of those. I played it once and I was like, yeah, I don't see the appeal, so I never did again. But I'd be there while y'all were playing it.
I remember we wore that one guitar out, and I spray painted it gold. We all signed it, and I don't know where the fuck it went to because I had it hanging on the wall for like a longest time.
I remember that. You remember Hassel whenever you lived out in the country across from Stanley? I don't remember which. I'm for sure it was a Mortal Kombat game, but they were 2 or 3 of your friends, cousins over there, and me and Waylon come over there, and we were just passing the controller around, and Waylon got that
one-handedly beating people.
Yes, he just texting with one hand and one hand on the controller, and is just destroying everybody. And he would eventually
I want to say Casey was there that day because Casey's one of those that fancies himself the ultimate gamer.
Yeah,
and I want to say Casey was there that day and got his ass handed to him as well because I know he embarrassed me. I was like, I don't even want to play you anymore. I don't even want to look at you, Waylon.
I'm not great at fighting games anyway, so I was just having fun. But he would literally just get bored and hand the controller off because he was just that much better than all of us.
He humbled me because I always thought I was really good with Scorpion. And again, help on, I'm respectable with Scorpion. So I was just like, oh, I'm finna do this. I'm finna do this. And then he's like, oh, yeah. And he's texting one hand, like you said, and just slapping at the keyboard like a 3-year-old with the other one, fucking me up and forming fatalities. And I was like, get out of here. It's rude to come to someone's house to do this to him.
So we have been going for a little bit, but before we move on from the focus topic here, let's touch on PlayStation real quick, some favorites there, and then maybe and we could tie that into the last point I was going to make is along with the PlayStation, the Xbox, and we're talking about some of the games there. What's some of your favorite PlayStation memory games, but also what are your modern favorite games and the memories you have of them or anything you enjoy playing? So let's go. We'll do this kind of quickly so we can go around. So Big Rob, we'll let you go first.
PlayStation. My grandma is the first person that I played PlayStation with. She bought PlayStation because she wanted Tetris 2. And she played the stew out of that on PS1. I eventually inherited her PlayStation. PS2, PS3, I had them. And I'm going to tell you what, and this is a once and for all thing. I did not hate PlayStation. I admit the graphics were equal to and sometimes even better than their competition. Here's why I don't like PlayStation. These hands don't fit those tiny controllers. I need a big giant Xbox controller. That's why I don't like PlayStation. That's why I'm not a PlayStation guy.
They make custom controls, Big Rob. Just so you know, they do have a meaty controller.
Yeah,
it's worth $100.
Yeah, okay. I'll look into it, but no, that's probably my favorite PlayStation memory is sitting there because my grandma played the stew out of video games too, but just sitting there watching her play PlayStation, that's a warm fuzzy memory.
I understand that. I'm similar. Like I said earlier, I was a PlayStation person. My grandmother, she bought me my PlayStation. I lived with my grandmother and Papa for the bulk of my childhood. And I remember she bought it off a Finger Hut. That's back when Finger Hut was a thing. Because, it was a big to-do if you bought something off Finger Hut and you made your little payments and all this shit. And because initially I was like, I talked her into it, like I was going to pay it. And she knew better. But, I was a good salesman. So she bought me my first one there, and then shortly after, my grandfather passed away, and it was just her and I there. And she actually, I used to get her, because she and I got really close. Well, we were always close, but we really got close after that. And she'd watch horror movies with me, and little Harry came over a lot at the time. He was always over there, and we'd get her to play Battle Arena to Shinden with us.
Nice.
And she actually got pretty good. She could kick Harry's ass occasionally. So we got Myrtle on the Battle Arena to Shinden. So that's a fun one when I think back on it. There, probably one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games though is aside from some of the wrestling games, would definitely be Castlevania Symphony of the Night. That game is madly underappreciated. You could play that game today. It still stands up at its own PlayStation Network. I highly recommend spend the fucking $3-4. Get it. It's fun. Moving into PlayStation 2 and 3. Force Unleashed 1 does not get the respect it deserves. Loved it. We played the shit out of Ultimate Alliance, like I said. Now, but I pretty much now I'm just I play Madden, I play NBA MLB The Show. I get it every couple of years. I'm like monsters with WWE games with MLB. Every few years I'll buy a show with the show, and I'll create a hassle and draft him up through college, and play the minors and build him up and shit like that. I enjoy doing that, and then I win a couple World Series with the Braves. Typically a Braves team I've eliminated the salary cap for, and had like Nolan Ryan pitching for them and shit like that. But who knows? But now I'm pretty much into. I got Diablo. Unfortunately, I bought it and I played it like 6 times. I had because it sucks. We work. We don't have time, and when I do have time, I don't feel like it. Unfortunately, so like literally right now in there, I have Diablo sitting there. I've played a handful of times. I played the living shit out of 2K23 WWE. I played it. I just retired it. I got Jedi Survivor. I haven't busted the plastic on it. Now I'm playing Spider-Man 2. Well, about 70% on it. I hit 70% on it last night. So, and I told myself I have to finish this game before 2K24 comes out, because I know once I start 2K24, it's over. So poor Jedi Survivor will probably never get cracked open now until maybe next fall if I get bored with 2K24. So I don't know. But that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, so I'm like Big Rob. I was never a PlayStation person. It was nothing against it. I just was not into it. The first PlayStation I've owned is the PlayStation 5. And quite honestly, the only reason I bought it is because the Spider-Man games. They were fantastic. The first one I saw on PlayStation 4, and I was like, man, that's great, but I don't want to go buy another system. And then I bought an Xbox Series X when it first came out, because I've always been into the Xbox Series more. And then when they announced that, hey, we're going to do this PS5, and I was like, all right, whatever. And then I happened to be on a trip to Canada, and then the time when they first came out, you couldn't find one anywhere. Walked into a store, and a guy was like, talked to him. I was like, yeah, so you can't keep any of these in stock. There's GameStop now. They used to be called EB Games up there, but it's the same company. But I walked in there, talked to him, and he's like, yeah, man, we can't keep these things in stock at all. I was like, so the PlayStation. I said, so you got the Xbox? He's like, oh no. I said, we can't keep Xboxes up here. I was like, oh, it's different in the States. I said, you can find an Xbox occasionally. You can't never find a PlayStation. Yeah. He's like, oh no, wait. He said, I got like 4 or 5 of those. He said, you want one? I said, how much? He was like, it's $700 for this, and it's got the controller. It's got 2 controllers, and you get the game too with it. And I was like, that's not terrible. So I had to do the conversion rate. How much is 700 Canadian? I was like, oh, that's actually less than it would be in the U.S. I was like, fuck. I ended up buying it, dragging it back home. having to get that thing through security in the airport's a pain in the butt, because I had to load it. Had to load the console. I take the box and all the accessories and put them in my suitcase, but I had to take the console out and put it in my laptop bag, because you can't load it into the undercarriage of the plane. So I was like, oh, this is a pain.
Well, my wonderful wife bought mine, so it was even better. So
yeah, I ended up bringing that home, but playing on it, I don't. That's the first one I really had, but I've played both. Actually, I played all 3, because there's 3 Spider-Man games. I played all 3 of those to 100% on it. And actually, that's what my WWE 2K is on the PlayStation. Everything else I've got is on the Xbox. But when I got the Series X, I bought a bunch of new games for it. And I bought the Assassin's Creed Vikings, or Valhalla, whatever it's called, where it's the Viking ones and all. I was like, oh, that's cool. I played it a little bit, never went back to it. I played it for probably an hour or 2, never went back. Bought Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, where you play the life story of Goku and stuff. And I was like, that was actually fun. And I played it for a while, and then Guardians came out, and I was like, I'm going to play Guardians. I took the plastic off, put it in the console, never played it. And I do have both the Jedi Fallen Order and the Survivor on there, and I've played all the Fallen Order 100% of that game, but the Survivor I've only played like probably 50%, and then right after I got it wasn't too long that Spider-Man 2 came out on PlayStation, and I swapped over and started playing it.
Spider-Man 2 just threw everybody in a wrench, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, those games are really, really good. I'm interested to see the Wolverine one they're doing, but it seems like they've been working on that thing for like 3 years. I'm like, when are we ever going to actually see it? I kind of forgot it was even coming out.
Rob, how'd you enjoy that Daredevil first person I sent you the other day?
I had seen that somewhere else, but I thought, yeah. But, you know what? The great thing about that is you don't need a good graphics card for it.
Oh, so we have been on it for a while, so we're I guess in the interest of time, let's go ahead and move into Nerd Out. So, before we do that, any final words before we move into Nerd Out? How about that?
Yeah, I did want to. One thing that I can't believe that I forgot. One thing that I can't believe I forgot because the whole series, Metroid. I've been a Samus fan since the NES days, and I played all the Game Boy games, the DS game, the Prime series. I can't believe I forgot that. And the other,
you know what? I think I played that on Game Boy Advance. It's like the only time I ever played it.
You know the only thing that I remember Metroid, but the only thing I really remember playing with Samus from on anything was Super Smash Brothers, which I will admit that's a fun game too.
That is a fun game.
And I did forget one I think it might have been Super Nintendo fighting game with you remember Killer Instinct?
Oh yeah. Man, yes. But you know what? I enjoyed that more at the bowling alley.
Yes, the actual.
That was one that I enjoyed probably more on the arcade than I did the actual console.
But with that, let's move into Nerd Out. So for anybody who hasn't been here before, this is the part of the show we ask random questions to each other about the topics of the day, respond with no prep time. We would also love to hear your response to the questions, your answers, or expand upon ours. Feel free to do that in the comment section. We'd like to actually hear that. And in the future, if you have any questions you'd like to hear us answer, we're trying to expand and do not just ours back and forth, but maybe a few from the audience every now and then. So we'd love to hear those from you. But with that, let's go ahead into our questions for this week, because I don't think we have any from the audience this week because we were still figuring out what we were doing for the show, and it was very quick from the last one. But Big Rob, since you're our guest, you get to go first, sir. What is your question? So,
I actually have one this time. I know usually I'm ill prepared, even though I know you do this. So, I could go on and give you a list that would take 10 minutes to go through of all the consoles that I have owned and or that I still own. Any console from back in the day all the way through. What is your one console that you never had that you would absolutely, totally wish you could get? Just whether it's for collectability's sake or for the games that were on there or just for nostalgia's sake. What's your Grail console that you would love to pick up? If you have a
question.
Or game, or I mean,
I thought I got actually an answer just popped in my head, so I'm gonna jump in. I'd like to have the Nintendo PlayStation concept that almost happened.
Yeah,
that would be one of those because I pretty much had the rest of minus the Jaguar and shit like that. I never had that, but yeah, there would be a pretty neat piece just to have.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if there was one that I had that most of the time I had the ones I wanted, and I was very selective on what I bought because I didn't upgrade all the time. And I said I was not a PlayStation person, so I didn't buy a bunch of those. I just bought the most recent one. But I mean, I don't. Maybe I would go back and get maybe repurchase one that I had before just because of some of the games I really enjoyed. It would probably be the 64 and actually be able, not even a Raspberry Pi version of it, but an actual 64 and actually have GoldenEye and some of those back on it again because those were fun. And I had a lot of fun nostalgic memories of them, but I don't know that there's anyone that I didn't have that I really wanted that badly.
Yeah, as fun as the Raspberry Pi is, and anyone doesn't have one, I highly
recommend it. It's not the same. It lags.
There's something about blowing in that console, the cartridge, getting it right, sticking it in there and flicking that switch.
Well, there's usually so much memory in them too that they kind of they don't react to the same speed as what the game did when you were playing the actual game itself on that console.
Right.
The Big Rob, what about you?
So, yeah, I guess this question kind of hits for me because I do like collecting consoles specifically, and a Jaguar is one that I'd love to have, but I want a 3DO. It was one of those weird consoles. It was like $19,000 when it came out, so nobody had one. They didn't make a ton of games for it. But the Panasonic 3DO, I would love to have one just because, just for, collection's sake.
I've never heard of that one. And I'm surprised nobody said a Dreamcast.
I had a Dreamcast. That's why I didn't say that, but I'm ashamed that we haven't talked about the Dreamcast on this, because Dreamcast
I did not have one. So.
Ahead of its fucking time, no doubt.
So, Dreamcast was awesome. I still have mine. I love mine.
The hassle? Your turn, sir.
I'm going to go the sentimental route. All right. If we were we don't get together hardly ever anymore. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we're four corners of the world, so to speak. Seems like. So if we were able to get together for one day, the three of us and Mittens, and play one game, what would it be?
Cool. Rob, I'm going to let you answer first since you're the guest.
So, I guess what I'm supposed to say is not what I want to say. This is a video game. It's a video game episode, so I'm supposed to say a video game, but I want to say Hero Clicks.
That goes without saying right there.
Does anybody even have any anymore?
No.
I got a ton of them.
I still have a few left.
I would like to watch Josh build a team for 2 hours.
Yeah. He's got to start ahead of time, but by far.
You would have to tell him on Monday to start building a team to be ready on Friday night.
Video games, one game, all four of us, City of Heroes. And Gary already has to have his character made.
So I had two questions built for this week, and one I'm going to say, but the other was like, we didn't talk really much about PC games. I wasn't sure if we were. I was going to say, what was your PC game? That was the only PC game that I really, really enjoyed was City of Heroes.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That would be a fun one. For me, I'd probably say I'm torn because I want to say Ultimate Alliance, but honestly, I probably would choose Gauntlet.
That was a great one.
Yeah, I think Ultimate Alliance.
If you're going Gauntlet, I'm going Ultimate Alliance. So I'm going to go Ultimate Alliance too. That's the one I think when it came out, that's around the time we started playing, and then that's when everybody started moving. So we never actually finished that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ultimate Alliance, but all of those were fun. I didn't care for as much as for the one on Switch, to be perfectly honest. But all of those were fun. The first two were fun, but it was like Gauntlet just had something about it. It's like, all right, this is the one I have to pick. It was more streamlined, I guess. It was more simplistic in what you could do on it. So I enjoyed it more. And to be honest, a close third would be play GoldenEye just to watch Josh place bombs all around and try to remote control blow you up.
Yeah. Yeah,
he was bad with those remote mines, and he knew exactly where he hit them. I'm like, you get lost going to town, but you can figure out where you hit every one of these remote mines.
He falls asleep walking to the fridge, but he could remember that.
So my question for this week is this one's probably a little more in depth of a question, but do you consider yourself an actual gamer? And what I mean by that, are you a gamer, or are you just somebody who enjoys playing video games? Because there's a difference. A gamer, got to play all the time. New game comes out, you spend more of your time playing that, and you do other stuff. You'll ignore other stuff for that. Maybe you make it to where that's your only hobby outside of work and stuff. So, and I'm just paraphrasing. Not everybody's like that, but a person who enjoys playing games, I buy a few games, maybe a lot of games.
Like Casey when he would break up with a girl because Halo was coming out. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. So.
And Mittens plans his vacations whenever the new World of Warcraft expansion drops.
So you have to approve those was the bad thing.
Those are those are gamer tendencies. So are you a gamer, or do you just enjoy playing games?
I just enjoy playing games. And obviously I don't do it nowhere near what I used to. I still fancy myself a gamer, but I'm not. Sadly, time has caught me, and I'm a casual. My PlayStation gets cut on some weeks more than others. Some weeks it don't even get cut on.
What about you, Big Rob?
I enjoy playing games. There was probably times in my life, especially in my 20s, when I was a gamer because that's all I did. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy playing games. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I'm not sure that I would ever really have classified myself as a gamer. I'd get into certain games I don't want to play, and like when we were doing City of Heroes, I don't want to go home and customize a figure or character and play a little bit, but then I'd go to bed by a certain time and stuff. But I mean, honestly, most of the time I got games I like and I want to defeat them, or beat them and enjoy them. But I'm also like, once I beat it, I may or may not turn it back on again. Maybe if I get really bored or something, but a lot of times it's only the weekends I play. I won't play during the week because I know I got to go to bed by a certain time. If I start playing, I will play a long time, but it's not I got to do it. It's not hey, let me go do this. It's just I enjoy doing it every now and then. And there's not specific games like I would consider my son a gamer because he wants to go every day and play Fortnite. And he plays these. I'm like, I don't want to play with general populace. Maybe a few people that I'm friends with, like you guys, but I don't want to play with the general populace. I don't want to do this. I just want to go enjoy playing.
I literally just finally downloaded Omni-Man for Mortal Kombat 1 the other day, and I bought that copy to have the day it drops, and I'm just now downloading him. Yeah, I played a couple games with him. He kicked ass, by the way. He's a badass motherfucker, but yeah. So that says all you need to know about my gaming habits now.
I mean, it's one of those things where I enjoy when I play, but if I'm getting to the point where I'm frustrated or I'm getting mad or I'm having to deal with other people with it, I'm like, I'm done. And that's, to me, that's the gamers, like, they can work through that. I'm like, I can't. I'm done.
My anxiety no longer allows it.
Yeah.
Chase scenes on Spider-Man has been murdering my anxiety the last
Oh, God,
week.
Those are horrible.
Like, I just defeated Lizard, and I'm like, dude, that fucking... He had my anxiety tore to pieces last night. Like, I just had to cut it off once I beat him and start watching SmackDown.
Yeah, I've been there. But with that, we've been here for a while, so I think that brings us to a close. But before we leave, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us at.
You can find us on Facebook via Hassel Hutchinson. You can find us on Instagram, The Nerdy Manroom Show. You can find us on Twitter or X, nerdy.mr show. You can find us on the TikTok at the.nerdy.show, I think. This is one of those. You'll find it. If you look at there, you'll find it. It's that's a bunch of interesting things sometimes. And most importantly, find us on the YouTube. Find us on Spotlight Media. Find us on Geek Network. Like, subscribe, share. We're close to 500 subscribers, guys. I don't know if you realize this, but we're knocking on the door of 500, and we're going to have a special giveaway when that happens. I've talked to our sponsor, the Zone Collectibles, and we're going to do something real special for you guys.
And while you're checking us out in all these spots, as Hassel mentioned, we are part of Geek Network. So if you're interested in joining Geek Network to help out with interviews and reviews, because we're still looking for people, please check out the graphic that we'll put here on the screen. That'll show you how to apply to join. And since we have our special guest, Big Rob, here from Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Oh, I got nothing that time. He just completely zoned out on us. Look at him.
The wife sent a message.
Shame.
The wife got me.
Shame. But since we got Big Rob here, Big Rob, how about you tell us where we can find you at and plug your show?
Yeah, I'm here on YouTube, and I am on the TikTok at Big Rob's House of Entertainment, I believe. I have an X account, but it's mostly just making smart ass comments on other people's posts. So if you want to follow me there, it's fine. If not, it's fine as well.
And after you check all of our shows and all of our extended family members out, then go check out our sponsor, The Zone Collectible. You can find them on the internet at thezoncollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles, or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs. Help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And with that, I think we're almost out of here, but when we leave, check out our ending credits because you'll see some special shout outs to some of our friends and extended Geek Network family members. But with that, thank you for joining us for our video game episode. And from here, join us here next time. We're going to discuss some favorite comic book crossovers. Until then, live nerdy and game on.